Hey everybody, I'm Bill Vencil. This is Chords of Orion, and it's all about ambient guitar here. On today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the iZotope Neoverb. It's new for October 2020, and iZotope says it's an intelligent, a really smart reverb plugin. That's quite a claim, isn't it? I've got Logic Pro pulled up here, and I've got a track off of my album Dreams called The Passage of Time. It's a solo acoustic guitar piece, and here's just a little bit of what it sounds like with no reverb. Yeah, just kind of nice and mellow. And on the album track, I used the Logic Pro Chromaverb reverb plugin on the master bus. Well, I've got it replaced now with iZotope's Neoverb plugin. And here's what it sounds like with all of the default settings. So when you first add the plugin to the track, this is what you get. Yeah, not bad, but where's the intelligence? Well, it's right here in the Reverb Assistant. So let me go ahead and click on that button and let's see what we get. So the intent here is that we're going to begin playing some audio, and we're going to adjust some sliders and a couple of buttons here and kind of begin to hear the reverb unfold the way we want it. So let me go ahead and turn on the music, and I'm going to make a few adjustments here. Okay, oh yeah, already that's sounding more like I would like it to sound for this track. You might be thinking, Bill, this is childish. Well, let's keep going here. I'm going to start playing the music, and let's see what happens when I click on the next button. Okay, did you see what happened? We had the plugin actually begin listening to the music and do a couple of things. One is it performed what it calls an auto cut function. And as you can see, it says it's going to clean up the input signal by creating a pre-EQ curve. And then secondly, it's going to do what it calls unmasking. And that's where it's actually going to intelligently compare the wet and the dry signals and adjust the EQ curve on the reverb itself, so the post-EQ curve. Let's see what it did here. Now again, let's listen to it, and then let's talk about these different settings. Oh yeah, actually I kind of could go with that pretty close, just the way it is. I really like that sound. But the idea here is that the Neoverb with the Reverb Assistant is going to get you close to the kind of reverb sound you're looking for, and then you can tweak from there. So the first thing you'll notice is this big triangular space in the middle, and there's a little ball in the middle, and you can just kind of drag it around. And what's going on here is that you're adjusting the balance between three different reverbs. And the three reverbs are the reflections, the plate, hall. So we can think about this as early reflections. Plate is a kind of a mid-sized reverb. You can also switch it to a medium chamber or a room. And then the hall is kind of that big blooming reverb type. And there's a couple of options there too for hall, large chamber. You can adjust the balance between any and all of these three reverb types. So let me go ahead and push it all the way to wet, and then I'm going to do some adjusting here so you can hear the difference. think that's about where it was from the Reverb Assistant. Then when we bring that balance back down. Oh yeah, very nice. All right, let's talk about EQ. There are, again, two kinds of EQ. There's the pre-EQ, and that is the signal. It's not your dry signal, but it's the signal that's going to go in to the reverb processing unit itself. And you've got three sliders here, right? So you've got kind of your low cut kind of slider here. You've got an EQ in the middle, kind of a band, and then you've got your high cut on the top end. And what the Reverb Assistant does is it creates initial settings. Here, let me, you can kind of blend it in as you will. So if I bring it to 200%, you can see that it added some cuts here in and around the sliders just by listening. And these were spots that it thinks could be, you know, areas that need to be smoothed out a little bit before the signal actually goes into the reverb itself. So I don't know if we'll be able to hear much of a difference, but let's check it out. I'll start with 0% and go up to 200. Yeah, now that is kind of subtle, isn't it? Because it's pre-EQ, but as I increase the scale of the adjustments there, you can hear that there are some frequency cuts going on. Now let's check out reverb number, or EQ number 2, and that's the reverb EQ. This would be the EQ after the reverb processes. So this is on the wet part of the reverb itself. And let's go ahead and check this out. Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like that, pulling out a little low end, lowering the mids just a bit, and boosting the highs just a little bit. Now, one of the interesting things you can do here also is you can use the intelligent automation of this plugin to individually check out both the pre and the reverb EQs. So let me go ahead and click on this X here, and it's going to remove the learned EQ. And if I kind of bring everything back up into the middle, I can now play the program material, and I'm going to do an auto cut again. Let's see what happens. Now it's listening. Okay, and it pretty much added the same cuts back in, right? There they are. It's very close, I think, if not identical. Now let's go ahead and listen to the program material for the reverb EQ. We'll see if we can do any unmasking. Here we go. All right, so we did get a little bit of a dip here in probably about the 250 hertz range. So there may be some mud there. So let's kind of see what that did. Yeah. Now it definitely reduced some of the mud in that range, and that 200 to 300 hertz range can definitely be a problematic range when there's a lot going on. You can definitely get kind of a lot of muddiness in that range with guitars in particular. Now we're not done because there's a lot more to this plugin. So let me draw your attention to the upper right-hand corner where you see the word or the abbreviation mod, and this is a modulation section. So let's kind of check that out. We do have some modulation going on now, but let me take it out and bring it in. Okay, now the modulation is out, all the way out. Let's bring it all the way in, full depth. That's nice. So it's not a crazy modulation like some of the more specialty reverb plugins, but it's enough to provide some movement in the reverb tail. Yeah, really nice. All right, let's check out some of the what they call the advanced options. And you saw them earlier. Let me go ahead and open that up. And what we see here is a lot of options for each of the three types of reverbs. So I'm going to knock out reflections and plate, and we're going to focus on Hall for this exercise so we can kind of see and hear what's going on. All right, let me go ahead and, again, play the reverb as is. Okay, now the first thing we'll look at is space and time. So time on the long reverb, actually the large reverb and the medium reverb can go up to 24 seconds. So let me go ahead and do that. Bam, there we go. Oh yeah, I can put that 20-second reverb in a smaller size room. So right now the size of the room is 40 meters. Let me bring it down to 11 meters. Okay, so you can hear that even though the reverb tail is still set to 24, it's a shorter sounding reverb than when I pull it all the way up to 40 meters. And then there is a space control, and that controls kind of the time and the size together. So watch as I bring space down, you'll see that the time reduces and the size reduce. Now all of a sudden I'm more like I'm in a kind of just a room, right? It's a 7-meter room. And it's a 4-second reverb tail. Let's bring that down even more. Here we go. A 5-meter room. So let's leave it at that smaller space size for a minute, and let's check out a couple of other things under tone. So we have two options. One is crossover, and then this crazy looking graph thing, and then damping. So as far as the damping goes, what we're going to do is we're going to be adjusting the frequency of a low-pass roll-off. Right, so it's kind of a low-pass filter. Right now it's set to 7.84 kilohertz. Let's go ahead and bring that down so you can hear the difference in the tone. Can you hear how the reverb tail really gets muffled? It's a little bit different than the tone of the reverb itself, but it's as the reverb tail begins to decay, what happens to it? Does it remain bright, or does it become more muffled as the time goes on? So actually, let me go ahead and bring this space size up so we can hear that kind of going longer. There we go. So you heard that. You know, it's almost like the tone control clamped down on the signal as the reverb decays. Now the damping itself controls how quickly the clamping down occurs. So here I've got it set all the way up to 11. Okay, so that was longer. Let me bring it down to 1. Did you hear how it's faster? The clamp down is faster when you have more damping going on. All right, so that's kind of the damping. I'm going to bring this up a little bit so we're not quite so grungy here. Very nice. All right, the next thing we have here is kind of a tone control right here. So if I bring this tone knob, and it's not really a knob, if I bring the graph down, it's kind of the, you'll see that on the right-hand side, we've got a line going from left to right. The right-hand side represents your high frequencies. Did I say left? The right-hand side represents your high frequencies, left represents low, and you can change the kind of the balance. So let's bring it, make it real bright here. Okay, you heard a little sizzle there. Let's bring it down here. Yeah, pretty grungy there, right? Great. And then one of the other things you can do is adjust the crossover frequency, which is kind of where the Reverb plugin considers low and high frequencies to begin and end. So right now it's set to 1818 hertz. Let's kind of set it down to 800. Okay, so a lot more of it's considered to be high frequency. Now, if we bring it up to 3100 hertz. So you heard how that changed, right? Because a lot more of the signal now is being considered low frequency, and we've got this kind of tilt, right? We've got this shift of the balance between low and high. Let's try this. Yeah. So you can hear how much of it is muffled. It's been kind of brought up. It's not as muffled, though, as when I bring the crossover down. Yeah, hear how much more muffled that is, because it's really just 1300 hertz and below that are considered low frequency, and that's really what I'm raising. It's more in the low mids and in the bass that I'm raising the frequencies. So the tone controls are very simple, but very flexible. We also have something called diffusion. So let's check that out. Right now we've got 30%. Now let's go ahead and bring that diffusion all the way up. Yeah, so diffusion is affecting the overall density of the reverb. So the more diffuse it is, or the more diffusion you have dialed in, the denser the reverb's going to be. All right, those are the controls, but let's just listen quickly to the different reverb types. We've been listening to the hall type. Let me go ahead, I'll play a little bit more. I kind of reset things. I'll play a little bit more and then switch it to the large chamber. Let me switch it now to the large chamber. Let's go to the mid-size reverb. Right now we've got it set to plate. Here's what that sounds like. And by the way, I'm just hanging out here with all wet. We'll mix some dry back in and get a more realistic sound in a minute. Yeah, that's a very plate sounding kind of reverb. Here's the medium chamber. Let's go back to plate, or actually here's the room. I forgot about room. Yeah, so if we bring the space down on the room, we should get a more realistic kind of room sound. Yeah. Now I will bring some dry in. Yeah, that's really nice. And this is the way you're probably gonna want to think about this reverb a lot. And that is, how can I add an overall space to my mix? And the room is great for that. And since we're talking about ambient styles of music, obviously the larger reverbs are also good for that. But let's go ahead now and add in, I'll leave it at room, but let me go ahead and add in some reflections here. And we'll see what the reflections by themselves sound like. Here we go. Okay, so you hear what's going on, right? So when you bring the reflections up, it's kind of like a pre-delay, if you will, and it really creates almost a slapback delay. Let's see what happens if we go with the size and the time all the way up. Yeah, kind of cool. Now let's bring the diffusion down. Now you hear that? When I bring the angle up, I begin getting almost a reverse kind of sound, which is really cool. Now, let me go ahead and add in some room and the large chamber and this kind of pre-delay it's quite a bit, and it's almost a reverse kind of thing going. And I'm going to play around with the balance between the three here. And then I'll bring down the level and get the dry back in. Here we go. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And it's really easy to get these adjustments with this reverb. You know, some reverb plugins that I've worked with to me, are overly complex. This one has just enough of a balance, I think, between the easy button controls and then the more advanced controls where you can really dial in what you're looking to do. So if you think about it, this reverb can really consolidate your workflow by combining 1 or 2 EQ plugins and potentially up to 3 different reverb plugins and put them all together to give you a consolidated way to think about the reverb for your tracks. And in regards to doing mixes, if you do several mixes a week like I do, it's really helpful to have this Reverb Assistant to really kind of get your basic reverb settings usually kind of close to where you're going to want them anyhow. I've had some good success on some of my recent mixes in the last few weeks. As a matter of fact, the last acoustic guitar piece I posted here on the channel, I used this Neoverb plugin, and I really, really liked the results. All right, what do you think? Is this the best reverb plugin of 2020? Drop a comment below and check out my playlist of other reverb plugin demos. I'll see all of you on the next video.